This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. What if comparing car insurance rates was as easy as putting on your favorite podcast? With Progressive, it is. Just visit the Progressive website to quote with all the coverages you want. You'll see Progressive's direct rate, then their tool will provide options from other companies so you can compare. All you need to do is choose the rate and coverage you like. Quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hi. Hello. How you doing? I haven't used that one in a while. I thought it was funny. But anyway. I am doing this again through video. Just because, I need to make it less awkward, Hi, cat. If it's something I want to continue with. And I think I do. Oh, by the way, I have to tell you, I have 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 YouTube subscribers. So thanks. So that was my goal last week. So now my goal this week, or probably still, next week, this upcoming week, is to have 7 subscribers. So I get 2 more, and I'm really excited for that to happen. Hi, cat. One of my other cats is here. One of my other cats is in the room, but that just reminded me of a scary movie when I think was it the first one? Or Scary Movie 2, when they perform the exorcism. It's like The Exorcist, and they stay in the house that's haunted and stuff. But when the exorcist girl's laying in the bed and she's like, your father's in here with it, or your mother's in here with this Father Harris. Anyway, but that's what that reminded me of. Also, I just want to say that I'm from the future. Sorry. I'm from the future, I guess. If you're watching this on YouTube, I already took my makeup off because I'm in my comfy. I got my little comfort robe on. And I just realized while I was editing that I forgot to say. So I'm going to do my intro and just pretend I look exactly like I just looked. So welcome back to Don't Quote Me, It's Probably Nothing, the podcast where I read official reports, stare at them for a while, and then slowly realize none of this makes sense. Today, we're talking about cattle mutilations, which I know you're probably like, what? But stay with me, because this isn't about sick animals or predators or farmers exaggerating stories after a long day. This is about thousands of documented cases spanning decades across multiple countries where perfectly healthy cattle are found dead with surgical level precision. Specific organs removed, no blood, no signs of struggle, and no tracks leading to or away from the scene, which is not normal. And what makes this even weirder is that this isn't fringe folklore. Law enforcement has investigated it. Vets have examined the bodies, and by vets, I mean veterinarians. And the FBI has been involved. And after all of that, there's still no solid explanation. So today, we're going to talk about the history of cattle mutilations, what investigators actually found, and the patterns that keep showing up, and the theories that people keep circling back to. This is one of those topics where every answer creates more questions, and they are my favorite kind. So grab a snack, pet your dog, maybe, or cat, or whatever animal you have. Just give them some pets and whisper I love you to them, I think you should tell your pets you love them often. I tell my pets 20,000 times a day, to the point where my cats run away from me as soon as they see me. They could be mid-walk, and as soon as they see me, they stop, and then they slowly back up and then take off running the other way. But not Burkle Pants, though. She loves me. She lets me smother her with kisses whenever I want. Here's a picture of Burkle Pants. I'm going to put in a picture of Burkle so you can see it. But anyway, let's talk about one of the strangest unsolved mysteries quietly happening in open fields. This is like so awkward for me to do, you know? And like when I talk to someone face to face, I don't make eye contact with them like this. Like I think it's so, I don't know, it makes me feel weird inside. That's what that does. But yeah, so I'm always looking all over the place. And I think maybe it's because like when I stare at someone, like if I look them in their eyes, I like can see into their soul, you know? I do it to my husband all the time. I'm like, let me see what you're thinking, you know? Anyway, so yeah, if you're watching this, I'm sorry that I'm awkward. Sorry, I just had to look at the camera real quick because I feel like I have hair all over my face from holding my cat. And I just want to say the camera adds like 150 pounds, so I don't really look like this. But anyway, why, after hundreds of years, do we still not have an explanation that everyone agrees on? Like, I'm not saying it's aliens, but if it was aliens, you know, why does it line up perfectly with old folklore about creatures that like walk between worlds and stuff? And the only thing that changes is the story that we tell ourselves to feel better about it, you know? So grab your tinfoil hats. I have my tinfoil headband with the little antennas. I do have to pull the camera up for this because I want to make sure that it looks okay, that you can see it. Now you can see it. They're going to be like, what was that bang? What was that bang I just heard? Just me floating down my chair. Anyway, so I'm going to sit lower for the rest of this so that you can see my tinfoil hat that I love so much. I just made it this morning. Well, this afternoon. I have bobby pins holding it though. So let's finish talking. Oh, sorry. I was looking at myself the whole time. My bad. So also bring your skepticism and like maybe don't eat anything beef related while listening to this one or watching. Before we had UFO sightings and like before we had like planes, maybe even cars, like, right? Like before we even had the word extraterrestrial, people were like already finding their cattle dead in ways that made like no sense. And this is the part that people don't talk about enough because cattle mutilations didn't start in the American West. They started way earlier. So welcome to medieval Europe. A time when livestock wasn't just property, it was survival. Your cow was your food, your cow was your income, your cow was the difference between your family living or starving. So when a farmer woke up and found like a cow dead overnight with no signs of a struggle, no like blood in the dirt, body parts missing, like it wasn't just weird, it was terrifying. So during the reign of King Edward I, England was heavily agricultural. Villages were small, isolated, and like deeply religious. And when something unexplainable happened, there was no science to fall back on. So there was God, there was the devil, and then there was everything in between. And like scattered through rural records, church complaints and local accounts are referenced to livestock being found dead in the morning after being perfectly fine the night before. And like they weren't torn apart or dragged away, and they weren't even like eaten. They were just like altered. So farmers described cattle with tongues missing, soft tissue gone, sometimes eyes, sometimes internal organs. And the detail that keeps repeating over and over again is that there's no blood. So like picture this. Okay. You're like a medieval farmer, right? Which would kind of suck. So there's no electricity, no streetlights, no fences, the way that like we know them now, you know? So like your cow's alive at sunset and you wake up at dawn and then the poor little thing is just dead. Okay. That reminded me of the episode of Roseanne when Jackie is trying to tell her aunt or whoever it was that the dad was dead. Sorry for my snort. I don't know if I'll be able to edit that one out. There were no tracks, no wolves nearby, no mess. And like, what do you even like you think would do that because like they didn't think predators. They thought that demons came in the night. Witches stole body parts for rituals. The devil marked the land or something like not human passed through. And here's where this starts getting like just a little bit uncomfortable. So the injuries described back then match the injuries described now. Same areas of the body, same lack of blood, and like same precision. So the difference isn't in what happened. The difference is in the explanation that they gave after it happened. So in medieval Europe, people believed in entities that moved between worlds, things that didn't fully exist here, but could step like in and out, you know, creatures that didn't kill for food, but like for purpose. And cattle were often described as targets, not random victims. It raises a weird question because like they just chose cattle. There was like not sheep. Like, I don't know. I feel like when they choose people, you know, just my thought. But anyway, even back then, people noticed patterns. Only certain animals were taken and only certain parts were missing and the bodies were left behind. Like they didn't take it with them, you know, they left it there. That's how they were found. Sorry, I'm really high. I took like an extra 2 hits of, what is it called? Someone's called it a Ricky, I think. My son told me to call it a Ricky. So whatever the Ricky is. But I took an extra hit or 2, maybe 3, because I was so nervous to do this video. So if I forget what I'm talking about a lot, that is why. Also, I could really go for a cheeseburger right about now. I bet it would be delicious. Yeah. So let's get back to talking about what I was talking about. I was just staring off into nothing. I was just staring off into nothing, and I literally, I think I was just drooling, to be honest. Oh, shit. I gotta take a sip of my cold coffee. I don't even know what I was thinking about. You know what? I do know what I was thinking about. I was thinking about food. I was thinking about there's this one lady, and I can't remember her name, but I see her on TikTok all the time. And she gets high and then she'll make these like delicious snacks and they look so good. And I don't know, my brain was traveling through waves of food out there. So let me gather myself and get back to talking about what I was talking about. So let's talk facts for a second, because whenever we bring up the Middle Ages or like early modern Europe, someone's always like, where is this written down? Who recorded it? Are these just like campfire stories, you know? And the answer is it's a mix. There aren't police reports like we have now, but there are records. They just don't like look like what we're used to. From the 1500s through the 1700s, most rural documentation came from 3 places. I had to fix my hat. Church records, manorial court records. I don't know if that's the word. I'll spell it for you. Maybe you can figure it out. It's Manorial. And if I was really, really bad at spelling, which I'm not, I'm bad at pronouncing words though. So maybe I should be bad at spelling, but I'm not. But anyway, like maybe it's because I'm high, but like a quick glance, all I see is monorail. And I haven't been in Disney since September, so I need to go back for sure. It's been too long. Anyway, they're court records, so. And they also had personal journals kept by clergy, landowners, and loan officials. And like, these people weren't writing folklore books. They were recording problems. That's how they recorded their problems back in the day, you know? So they would do like livestock loss, economic damage, and things that like didn't make sense. And that's where this gets a little more interesting. So in English, In England, parish records sometimes include complaints from farmers about cattle found dead, like without cause or without like, so the words that they used were without wound of beast or blade, which like I feel like that is so fancy to say. Like, I don't know, someone's like in the medieval times, they're like about to be pushed off the thing and like hung, sentenced to death or beheaded or something, right? And then like, I don't know, if they just, sorry, my phone vibrated. If they just came out and they were just like, a wound of beast or blade, I don't know. I just thought it was pretty cool. Pretty cool to say, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, that phrasing matters because it tells us that they were already ruling things out. No blade, meaning like no human theft, right? No beast, meaning no predator of the animal kind. So, one of the most famous diary keepers of the 1600s was Samuel Pepys. It could also be Pepys, but it's Pepys. Anyway, he didn't write specifically about cattle mutilations, but his work is important because it shows how people documented strange events. So when something disrupted daily life, it went into journals, church notes, and like local complaints. And livestock deaths absolutely counted as disruptions. So in parts of rural England and Scotland, ministers recorded cattle deaths that were described as unnaturally handled or strangely cut, especially during times of famine or unrest. And why does that even matter? Sorry, I just felt my antennas jiggle. I felt them jiggle when I shook my head, and it made me chuckle. And I don't know why. But anyway, probably because I'm high as shit. Honestly. But that matters because during famine, people examine livestock closely because they need to make sure that the meat was safe to eat. Because, like, you have to get your food when there's famine because that means no food, right? And multiple accounts mention animals that appeared untouched except for specific missing parts, usually tongues, eyes, or soft tissue. And like, let's talk about witchcraft for a second, because witchcraft accusations didn't just like pop up randomly. They were often tied to like very specific events. So livestock loss was one of the most common reasons that someone was accused of witchcraft. And this is because like the cows didn't just die, they died wrong. So in Scotland during the late 1500s and early 1600s, witch trials frequently included testimony about animals found dead overnight with like no signs of attack. So the belief wasn't that witches physically ripped animals apart. It was that they used something else, like spirits, familiars, or like night creatures, and like things that could move unseen. European folklore didn't describe these beings as like random monsters. They were described as like selective. They took specific animals, specific parts, and then like they left the rest behind. Now, France and parts of what is now Germany recorded similar livestock concerns, especially in like agricultural regions dependent on cattle rather than like sheep or pigs. And here, the same phrases were repeating across regions. No spilled blood, no mark of tooth, which like no tearing of flesh. Okay, so like that so like, like when you're little and like your sibling bites you and you're like, ah, Johnny bit me, Johnny's my brother and he used to bite me all the time. But like, can you imagine back then? Like they'd be like, oh, he left a mark of the tooth. Anyway. But it tells us that this one guy wasn't like making stuff up. It was a shared experience across different places that had no communication with each other. Now, in the 1500s, they weren't like, oh, aliens did this, but they were saying that it wasn't an animal, it wasn't a person, and it wasn't normal. And people in the Middle Ages weren't stupid. They lived closer to animals than we do today. Like they butchered their own livestock. They knew anatomy. They knew what decay looked like. So when they said something was wrong, they probably meant it. So as Europe moved into the 1700s and leaned more towards like science and reason, something fascinating happened. So the explanations started to change. People talked less about demons and more about like unknown causes. But the reports didn't stop. And that's important because it means the phenomenon survived the death of superstition because it continued into modern times. See, sometimes when I'm high, I just try to shorten up words. I was just trying to say "tinue" instead of continue. But anyway, so now we swim. Hold on, I'm gonna put that down. Now we swim across the ocean. Hold on, I want to do this, and maybe I can add a little dolphin, a shark swimming with across the ocean. But anyway, this is where a lot of people think the story starts, but it does not, because it started where I just started telling you about it. But this is where they start documenting like everything that happens in a way that makes ignoring it difficult. So, and the reason why I said we're swimming across the ocean is because we're going to the good old US of A, specifically the American West. And when ranchers notice something wrong, I thought I heard something, with their animals, they didn't write folklore, they called the authorities. I don't know why I laughed at that. I don't know what I was just talking about. I took a French fry break. The first major wave of modern cattle mutilations began in the 1960s, exploded in the 70s, and fun fact, never actually stopped. The cases just became quieter, and the most affected states were Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, and New Mexico. Which is interesting because these were wide open areas, low population density, massive stretches of land where cattle are often left overnight. Does it sound familiar? Now, let's talk about what was actually found. So ranchers reported that cattle were discovered dead, often hours after being seen alive, with the following characteristics: tongues removed cleanly at the base, eyes missing, ears gone, udders or reproductive organs removed. Sorry, an unsuspecting life form entered the room. I forget where I was at. Oh, okay. So I just talked about their udders or reproductive organs being removed. But also, I mean, I could have probably left this out, but there was something that was happened to the cattle. But sometimes their anus was cored out. Like they just cut around it. I don't know why. But also there was no blood on the ground. And no signs of a struggle. And no tracks leading to or away from the body. And one detail that keeps coming up is that like predators will not touch the remains. Coyotes, wolves, birds, like they all avoided them, which is a big problem for the "this is just nature" explanation, because scavengers do not care what is left behind. Like if it's food, they will eat it unless something is wrong with it. But here is where things get extra spicy. So veterinarians were called in and multiple vets noted that the cuts did not resemble tearing or chewing. They described them as like clean, smooth, and precise. Not jagged, not messy, not like what teeth do. And ranchers were pissed because they were people who had like raised cattle their entire lives and they knew what predator kills looked like. And this was not it, my guy. Okay. So one of the earliest American and most well-known cases actually involved a horse, not a cow. And he was named Snippy. Poor guy. And it was in Colorado in the late 1960s. And Snippy was found dead and flesh removed from the head and neck. And there was no blood at the scene. And then once that hit the news, reports flooded in from ranchers saying like, yeah, this has been happening to us too. And like, this is the part where I start side-eyeing everything, because when ranchers started demanding answers, the government showed up. So the FBI actually opened an investigation in the 70s. Their conclusion to the public was that it was like natural predation, decomposition, and like mass misunderstanding. But Okay. Internal communications admitted something much more uncomfortable. Some cases couldn't be explained. Like, not all, but enough. And instead of pushing harder, the investigation was just like quietly dropped, which, by the way, did not make ranchers feel better. It made them feel like something was being swept under the rug. That was me sweeping under the rug. Maybe I could add a little like rug sweep there. This video is going to be the greatest I've ever done. Anyway, then came the helicopters. Unmarked helicopters, to be exact, and they would fly low, like over ranch land, often reported near mutilation sites, and sometimes they were seen the same night the animals were found dead. Now, is this proof of anything? No. But is it weird? Absolutely. This is where my chaos brain kicks in, because if this were predators, would the same organs be missing every time? And if it were humans doing it, why leave thousands of dollars of like meat left behind? Like, that's some high quality meat. Okay. But, and also, like, if it was a disease, why did the cuts look surgical? And if it was military testing, why does it follow the same pattern described centuries earlier? Now, to make you even more uncomfortable, which I don't even know if you are uncomfortable, but if you are, maybe you'll be more uncomfortable. Ranchers used the same language as what was reported all of those years ago, that it didn't look natural, it didn't look like an animal, and it didn't look human. And that is like word for word the same sentiment that medieval farmers expressed. Oh, and one more thing. I forgot. The cases often come in like clusters, multiple animals over a short time and then nothing for months or years, which suggests that it's not random or an accident. It's intentional. Okay. Also, I have lemonade. I feel like that would be a good lemonade commercial for Hardee's or something, you know? I don't even like Hardee's like that. Maybe I do. You know what? I actually do. This is only the third time I've ever had them in my entire life. But do you know what I've been really craving? Those Chili's mozzarella sticks. I did get them the other day. And I'm sad. Like, it kind of satisfied my craving for that, but not so much because it wasn't fresh. Like, we DoorDashed it. So, like, it wasn't the same. It wasn't, like, crunchy and, like, cheesy stringiness, you know? It wasn't that. So, I'll have to get it again. But anyway, I have been really craving chicken parm. Like, you have no idea. And I need to get that soon for sure. And you know what? Maybe it's actually the cheese and the sauce, like the marinara sauce, that I'm craving. Also, now nothing against Jamaica. It was a beautiful place and I loved every minute of it. Did you know they serve their mozzarella sticks with ranch? I was there for 8 days. I had mozzarella sticks every single day. It was all you can eat. It was mozzarella sticks and jerk chicken all day. Okay. For 8 days, multiple times a day, I had to dip my mozzarella sticks in ranch dressing. Do you know how disgusting that was? How it felt like a sin. It felt like a sin to be dipping my mozzarella sticks in ranch. Ew. That jerk chicken was banging though. And I was really drunk the whole time. It was great. It was so great. It was great. But anyway, by the late 1970s, cattle mutilations had become so common in certain areas that ranchers stopped reporting them. Not because they stopped happening, but because nothing ever came of it. And that's the moment where this story just like stops being weird and starts becoming unsettling. Because something crossed continents, survived belief systems, outlived superstitions, adapted to modern explanations, and kept doing the same thing. And I'm going to take this pattern to a place where everything collides. There's UFOs and folklore and cattle mutilations and entities that don't behave like anything we understand. So I know I said grab your tinfoil hat, but you need to grab your fanciest tinfoil hat. This is currently my fanciest tinfoil hat, or I would have changed it. But grab it and then put it on, because we are heading to Skinwalker Ranch. So if cattle mutilations are the thread, then SW Ranch is the knot. And I'm not using that word anymore because I said it once. I'm not doing it again. So SW from here on out, because no, thank you. Can't say it like 3 times or some shit. Not doing it. Anyway, this is the place where every explanation people use, predators, pranksters, the military, mass hysteria, just completely falls apart. So SW Ranch is a roughly 500-acre property in northeastern Utah. And before it ever had a name in paranormal circles, local Native American tribes already avoided the area. Not because it was like cursed in a fun way, but because it was considered dangerous. So the Navajo term SW, but it's like the word, though, refers to a shape-shifting entity associated with dark practices, something that can appear as animals, mimic humans, and move between forms. This wasn't like a campfire legend made up for like TV or whatever. Like, this belief predates modern ownership of the land by centuries. Like, centuries is a lot of years. Now, fast forward to the 90s, and the ranch was purchased by the Sherman family, a normal family, by the way, who moved in expecting ranch life. And what they got instead was chaos. And almost immediately, they reported strange animals behaving aggressively, huge wolf-like creatures that didn't act like wolves, and animals that seemed immune to gunfire. And then, the cattle mutilations started. So, cows were found dead with missing organs, surgical-looking cuts, no blood, no signs of predators. And here's the detail that makes SW Ranch different from every other cattle mutilation hotspot. So, some of the mutilations happened after the animals were observed alive just hours earlier. And in at least one case, a cow was reportedly seen collapsing in the field, and when ranch hands reached it, part of the animal were already missing, which is freaking wild, right? Wild. So, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't days later. It was literally immediately. They immediately found it. So vets examined the remains and found, not shocking, no tearing, no scavenger damage, and no explanation that fit all of the facts. But the mutilations weren't happening in isolation. They were happening alongside strange lights in the sky, objects appearing and disappearing, poltergeist-like activity, electronic equipment malfunctioning, and animals acting terrified for no visible reason. But anyway, this wasn't just one phenomenon, it was many, and then things escalated. The ranch was eventually purchased by Robert Bigelow, and he was a billionaire with a long-standing interest in aerospace and the unknown. He didn't buy the ranch to turn it into a tourist attraction, which, by the way, is not one that I would ever visit. But he bought it to study it. So he funded a private research group called National Institute for Discover Science, or NIDS. And this is important because NIDS wasn't made up of random paranormal enthusiasts. It included scientists, engineers, medical professionals, and former government personnel. And their goal wasn't to prove aliens. Their goal was to figure out what the heck was happening. And what they found was a little messy. They documented repeated cattle mutilations, unidentified aerial phenomena, apparent surveillance of the ranch, and what they described as intelligent responses to human observation. Meaning whatever was happening there seemed aware of being watched, which is not great. Okay? Now, I mentioned my chaos brain earlier, but now it's really going, okay? Because SW Ranch combines everything that we've already talked about. Ancient folklore about entities that take animal parts, modern cattle mutilation patterns, UFO sightings, and a location that seems like to act like a magnet for high strangeness. And unlike medieval Europe, this time it was being observed, measured, recorded, and still no single explanation worked. Predators? No. Hoaxes? Nope. Military testing? Aliens? Maybe. But that doesn't explain shape-shifting entities or poltergeist activity, which leaves us with the explanation that everyone might hate, that this might not be one phenomenon. It might be several overlapping ones, or worse. So people studying it reported that activity increases when they investigate it, as if like something doesn't like being observed, like if curiosity itself is a trigger. And remember, like what I've been saying this whole episode, that mutilations didn't stop and that they followed the same pattern and that the same organs, same precision thing, you know? Yeah. But anyway, now that I've laid out the history, it's time to talk about the theories. Theory 1 is alien biological sampling. And this is the most popular explanation and one that people jump to the fastest. So the idea is that non-human intelligence has been using cattle for biological sampling for decades or longer. And why cattle is because they're large mammals, genetically consistent, easy to isolate, widespread like across the globe, and closely tied to human food systems. And the organs removed also matter. So tongues for tissue and nerve samples, eyes for optic nerves, reproductive organs for genetic material, blood for environmental and biological analysis, and the precision, well, that fits advanced technology better than teeth or knives. And this theory explains surgical looking cuts, consistent organs taken, lack of blood, global pattern, long-term consistency. But here is also where that theory struggles. Because, like, why leave the bodies behind? Why not take the whole animal? And why repeat the same process for centuries, right? Because, like, if this is just aliens doing science, why so theatrical? Like, why so dramatic, you know? So theory 2 is secret military or government programs. And this theory says that cattle mutilations are the result of classified operations, environmental monitoring, disease tracking, biological warfare testing, psychological operations. Like, yeah. The helicopters that were reported near mutilation sites fuel this idea. And the FBI did investigate the cattle mutilations in the 70s, which tells us one thing, that the government took this seriously enough to like even look. But this theory explains helicopter sightings, the government silence, and some forensic precision. But it also falls apart because the same mutilation patterns appeared before modern military use, before helicopters, and before electricity, like before the US even existed. Unless someone wants to argue for like a 700-year-long Black Ops program. Anyway, so theory 3 is predators, decomposition, and like the whole nature thing. So this is the official explanation that you hear most often, that the animals bloat and the skin splits, and then scavengers target soft tissues first. And then like some cases probably can be explained this way, but like not all of them. So this theory does not explain the precision cuts, that there was no blood at the scene, the lack of scavenger activity, repeated removal of the same organs, or witness reports of animals alive shortly before mutilation. But ranchers who live with animals daily reject this explanation for sure, because they know what dead animals normally look like. Theory 4 is the environmental or planetary monitoring. So this is one of the quieter theories. So this is the idea that cattle are being used as biological indicators. They're monitoring radiation, chemical contamination, disease, soil, and water health. And if something wanted to track the health of the planet, then cows would be perfect. And this theory does explain the blood removal, the reproductive focus, long-term sampling, and global distribution. But here's the part that like people don't like. If this is true, then like we might not be the experiment, the planet is. And like who is watching the results, you know? Probably our government, obviously. So theory 5 is interdimensional or folklore-based entities. And this is where like ancient history and modern UFO theory collide. That's another explosion. I'm going to add an explosion there. Anyway, so this theory suggests cattle mutilations are the result of non-human entities that don't originate strictly from outer space. They're entities that appear differently across cultures or shift forms or move between states of reality. In medieval Europe, it was demons. And in folklore, it was the Fae. And in Native American tradition, it was the SW. And in modern times, it was the UFOs. Theory 6 is that, like, we don't know WTF this is. Problem. That's what that theory is. And I don't like it. I don't like it. Because why? And like, why don't we know what it is? And why is it happening? You know? But also, like, I can get down with the whole interdimensional thing because, like, I don't know. What if they just gotta, like, step through something, but we can't, you know? Because of, like, the 5G towers and all that stuff. All the different things that bring our energy down so we can't step over. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm trying to say? But anyway, I don't even know what this episode is going to be like. I don't know any of that because, yeah, I feel like maybe I gave you all the information. Maybe I didn't. I feel like I missed a lot. I feel like I missed a big chunk. I feel like I just stopped typing my notes in the middle of writing them, which is it's very possible that I did. Like, I talked about the SW Ranch, I talked about the UFOs, and I talked about the theories. I feel like there was something else I wanted to add in there and mention, but I like never got a chance to come back. And I start a lot of stuff and don't finish them. So whatever that is what I got. So there's a chance that I did not finish writing this episode, but I'm going to release this episode anyway. I'm really high right now. So I am going to wrap it up before I spiral. I'm going to end up giving myself a panic attack, you know. I already had to tell myself to breathe 3 times. So with that, if you enjoyed this episode, or it made you pause and like stare at the wall for a second, because I'm sure it probably did, because it made me pause and stare at the wall for a second because I, you know, stared into nothing for just forgot I was talking, you know. But anyway, make sure you follow on Apple and Spotify or subscribe on YouTube, which if you're on YouTube, you can subscribe because you're on YouTube. But like, if you could do that, my goal this week is to get to 7 subscribers because I have 5 and I'm so excited about it. So yeah, if you want to subscribe on YouTube, I'll give you an air high five. Yeah, there's your high five. But if you're on like Spotify and Apple and stuff, if you could like, you know, follow and rate it, if you leave like a 5-star review, because that would be nice. I don't want to say leave like a 1-star review, you know. If I'm going to ask for something, it's going to be a 5-star, you know. But anyway, if you leave like a 5-star review or like write a review, you know, wherever like you're listening and stuff, it'll tell people like, hey, you should check this out. It's pretty cool, you know. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. That would be great. What is that from? That movie with the guy, he doesn't want to work anymore. And they play that one song. It's like, damn, it feels good to be a gangster. You know what I'm talking about? What it's called. And the guy's like, if you could work this afternoon, that'd be great. Oh, I don't remember what that movie is called. It's on the tip of my tongue. But I forget. That movie. Why am I even talking about this? I don't know why I'm talking about this. Shout out to Nighthawk Radio. Go give them some love and support independent creators who keep things strange. And check out some of their shows and stuff, you know. They're fantastic too. But yeah, I'll be back next time. Sometime. With like more weird stuff to talk to you about. That will leave you with more questions than answers. When you're done listening to it. Probably. Most likely. Maybe. For sure, yeah. I think so. I think that's exactly what happens. How does that guy say the thing with the thing in Billy Madison when he was like, I am now dumber for something like what you said made no sense and I am now dumber for having listened to it or some shit. I hope that that's not what it's like for you guys listening to this. Hopefully I make you smarter. But anyway, the song of the week this week is called Heavy Seas by a band called Best Case. And I think that you should go check them out and listen to them and stream them wherever you get your music because they're so good. Stay weird. Stay curious. Maybe build a tinfoil hat. You can send them to me. Send them to me. You can send them on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. Like the podcast name on Facebook and Instagram, but also like you can use my personal Instagram too to send me your tinfoil hats. I need to see pictures of them. So like, please send them to me. And if you do, I will share them somewhere on TikTok. I'll make a TikTok with your cute little tinfoil hats. So yeah, if you have them, please send them to me.
Pulled the rug from under me. Can't believe I didn't see the heavy seas. I set myself for the brighter days where it's not too hard to forget everything.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. What if comparing car insurance rates was as easy as putting on your favorite podcast? With Progressive, it is. Just visit the Progressive website to quote with all the coverages you want. You'll see Progressive's direct rate, then their tool will provide options from other companies so you can compare. All you need to do is choose the rate and coverage you like. Quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.